it's time for Bank on It, as I believe firmly that Tennessee can win, and I believe they will win and beat Alabama. So I'm going to tell you why, and it is Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank. I'll tell you more about Commercial Bank here in a moment. So, number one, Alabama's defense, part one. The Crimson Tide 14th in the SEC in rushing defense, allowing 126 yards per game. The Vols, behind running back Dylan Sampson and a tough interior offensive line, averaged 246 yards per game. When you really break it down and you talk about physical toughness between two teams, that is still the deciding factor to a large degree when it comes to predicting winners in key games. And I think that's been overlooked. I like Tennessee's offensive line running the football more than I like Alabama's defensive line stopping the run. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Yes, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, Tennessee can still run the ball. Their interior line can win one-on-one matchups. Now, the question becomes, while we have faith in Tennessee's defensive line, are we sure that Tennessee's defense is more trustworthy in stopping the run than Alabama's? Because I know that's a hot take. But I'm going to throw this out there, guys. Tennessee's...
We'll get there. Alabama's defense, part two. All right, Alabama's defense is bad against the run, but they're incredibly average against the pass. They rank 8th, tied with Auburn in the SEC for 213 yards passing allowed per game. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but remember, like Tennessee, they played a couple of patsies here and there. So Alabama is averaging 2.3 sacks per game, which is tied for 7th in the SEC. So I just don't believe that this is a great Alabama defense like we've become accustomed to seeing, Caleb. I think this is an Alabama defense that will be able to pressure Nico Iamaleava just like anybody can because of the tackle issue, but I don't think it's going to be a consistent, persistent problem as long as Tennessee has some sort of answer. Now, whether that's 12 personnel, 2 running backs, whether that's quick hitters across the middle, whatever it is, as long as Tennessee has an adjustment, I don't think Alabama's defensive front just wins because they're bigger and badder dudes as they've been in the past.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree on this whole concept of Alabama's defense. I just think they've played a tougher schedule than Tennessee to this point. And I don't think
Georgia
it's even
and
close.
Wisconsin.
I mean, if you look at the FPI rankings, Alabama's number 24 and Tennessee's down at number 59. Now, that doesn't even factor in the fact that, like, Tennessee, when you throw in the FCS schools, I mean, Tennessee's actual FPI strength, the schedule strengthening could be all the way down at number 71. And right now, Alabama they're giving up 4.64 yards per play at the moment. Tennessee's 4.04 yards per play. On top of that, I'm just going to say it, not only has Alabama's schedule been tougher, Tennessee's tougher games have been against non-offensive oriented programs, most notably Oklahoma. Their signature win is against the worst offensive teams with a winning record in college football, maybe. And their other one is NC State, which also has an atrocious offense. So not only is their schedule easier, I think the gap's even larger when you factor in the quality of offenses they've played, Alabama and Tennessee.
Well, last I checked, the defenses aren't going to play each other.
Yes, I agree, but I'm saying we're talking about Alabama's defense. I don't think there's this...
There's not a Will Anderson on this team. There's not a Dallas Turner on this team. There's not an elite defender on this team.
We're going to get here, but I'm debating when we get to my 5 Crimson Tide players, but there is a Will Anderson on this team. There is.
Okay.
And...
well, every NFL scout would disagree with you. But
every NFL scout thought Jamarcus...
oh, I lost you. People think I just muted Caleb. I didn't. All right, the next reason you logged up for a second. Alabama has issues on the offensive line. The Crimson Tide has switched up its right offensive guard position throughout the season. Jaden Roberts and Gino Vandemark have gone back and forth playing the season, split reps. Doesn't feel like they have a good feel for that. Now, getting to Tennessee's defense, right tackle Elijah Pritchett has improved, but he struggled against speed rushers. So if I'm Tennessee, I'm trying to match up James Pierce Jr. on Pritchett as much as I can. But I think that's another way that Tennessee can beat Alabama, and that is by applying pressure, and not just from the outside with Pierce, but I think there are some guys who can win that right guard battle on Tennessee, the interior of Tennessee's defensive line.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually the biggest advantage Tennessee has. Because Alabama's got questions on the offensive line, and there's questions about Jalen Milroe and his ability to handle that type of pressure from around the edge, because I think James Pierce is fast enough to catch Jalen Milroe a lot of times. Now, I do think Alabama's going to hit a deep shot here or there. Jalen Milroe hits 1 or 2 a game, and that's just going to happen. You're going to get beat. It happened to Tennessee last year when they played Alabama. I can guarantee you he's going to hit 1. But even if he hits 1, I don't know if that'll be enough.
Yeah, I would more guarantee. Okay, so if I made you bet a car payment that he'll either throw a touchdown for over 50 yards, and he has Ryan Williams, so really, let's be honest with you, it could be thrown for 20 yards, and he takes it for 60. But anyway, I'll give you that one too. Or he runs the ball for one play over 50 yards. I'll ask you which is more likely and which is scarier for Tennessee.
The running play is scarier, but the throwing play is more likely. It's not scary for Tennessee if he hits a 50-yard touchdown pass. It's going to happen. You let the one a game go. It's like when you play a basketball team, Dave, that relies on 3-point shooting. They're going to have a run at some point where it's like 20-0 just because they can get red hot. The question is, can you sustain that run? Can you sustain the inevitable 50-yard touchdown pass Jalen Milroe was going to throw? But if he runs for another 50 yards, then Tennessee's got a real problem, particularly with Keenan Peele out.
See, I think he's going to have one of those, and I think it's imperative for Tennessee. Both of these teams are sort of at crossroads, and you don't want to start pointing fingers. Now, I think Tennessee has great team culture, and this won't be a problem. But, is Will Brooks able to get an angle and push him out of bounds at the 10? Well, then Tennessee's really good in red zone offense. So I think that both are quite possible. I just think he's going to have a big run. Maybe 50 is exaggerating it, but 35 yards or so that'll impact the game, and it's up to Tennessee to try to get him to try to bend but don't break. Remember that used to be such a terrible saying, but nowadays it's pretty much the way everybody plays defense.
I mean, it's still kind of a stupid saying. I mean, you don't want people getting in the red zone on you, and so like I'm still not a fan of the saying.
Well, it doesn't. Well, I think you have to read it like it is in current football. It's not, hey, let's give up a play and let them into the end zone or let them into the red zone. It's not that, which I think is what you're saying. What I'm saying is you just better have a package ready in the red zone to be able to stop somebody at that point. That the offense is, because the rules are so tweaked towards offense, that nobody's going to hold anybody to 125 yards of total offense anymore.
No, that's true. You're not going to have the 2011 national championship game where I don't think Alabama let LSU cross midfield for the first 3 quarters of that game.
Yeah,
that's not happening. But
sure, I'm definitely not saying that, we should give up a 15-yard play here so they get inside the 20.
I mean, put it this way. I saw some, homers on Twitter say Tennessee played bend but don't break defense against Florida last week. No, they didn't. Florida just made every mistake in the book when they got into the red zone because Billy Napier was coaching them.
No, that connotation is not what I meant at all. Nobody says, let's give up some yards here. This should be all kinds of fun. Certainly didn't mean that. All right, now I want you to go ahead and bank on this. And I've talked to a lot of people in Tuscaloosa. There's issues in Tuscaloosa. It is bank on it, and it's brought to you by Commercial Bank. Member FDIC, life made better. Bank on it. There are chemistry issues in Tuscaloosa.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
They've got chemistry issues. Now, you could argue Tennessee does as well from afar, but I thought the Malachi Moore was a great instance of that. And really, it wasn't just that he shoved Diago Pavia, the Vanderbilt quarterback. It was the fact that he got up and he kicked his mouth guard. But then the real issue was, to me, that the coaches tried to get him out of the game. And he basically said, nope, I'm good. I'm staying in the game. To me, that's problematic. And Will made reference to it, that they've got a players coach now, and some people aren't responding to that. I think some players, though, and their families really wanted the strong leadership that a Nick Saban provides, and they don't have that right now. I think there are chemistry issues at Alabama, and I think if you're in the game late with them, you have a better opportunity to beat them than you ever did in the previous 15 or so years.
Well, I agree, but I wondered, are we sure that Tennessee doesn't have some chemistry issues right now too?
No, that's why I referenced them.
Yeah, yeah. Overall, I'm with you with Alabama, but it's funny. You and Will talked about this last segment, and I want to ask: are you suggesting that the Tide are where one of the things that broke about the Cowboys? You know this, Dave. Troy Aikman's utter frustration with Barry Switzer letting the rest of the team do whatever they wanted to do.
I think there's a similarity there.
Could Malachi Moore be the Troy Aikman, where he's very frustrated with Kalen DeBoer letting people do what they want to do?
No, Malachi Moore would have been one of the many players who weren't doing what they were supposed to do. Now,
no, I disagree. I think Malachi Moore is doing what he's supposed to do, and that's why he's so frustrated in the moment.
Well, you're not. I mean, but Troy Aikman never acted like a jackwagon during the game. I mean, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, but you can. I give a longer leash on that to defensive players, because defensive players play with a lot more anger, and they're supposed to. So
yeah, but you should never do what he did. I mean, that he got called for a personal foul. I mean, that's
Dave. You sound like a boomer.
I don't know what's a boomer.
Baby boomer, people like of a certain age that are like, you gotta always carry yourself with a certain standard when you play the game.
I didn't say that. I sure as hell don't talk like that. But what I said was that once you commit a personal foul, your argument is moot, because that's 15 yards.
Well, the game was over when he committed that personal foul, wasn't it? It was already in. It was already in hand. Who cares?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's a really, really bad sign, that you would go to the point after you've already been in trouble of creating a personal foul issue, pushing a guy on the ground. That could have been another personal foul, and probably would have if it wasn't Alabama. So, no, I'm not being overly conservative whatsoever. I just don't believe that Malachi Moore is this bastion of leadership that you do.
I think Malachi Moore lost it because he's the only one who actually felt like he cared and was doing what he was supposed to do, and he's frustrated that other people aren't. And I think the personal fouls were the fact that the game was over. He didn't cost his team. I mean, who cares if you take a knee on the 50 or the 35? It's still a knee. They're going to run out the clock. I think he lost it, and I think, honestly, to me, the more red flag, Dave, is that nobody else was upset outside of Malachi Moore on Alabama.
Well, but still, it carries over to the field. I don't care what age group you are. If you think that's okay to act like that, I mean, that's a bad look for the entire program. That's a bad look in recruiting. I mean, you just don't act like that. The worst thing that Troy Aikman ever did was got caught cussing on the sidelines when sideline cameras and microphones were first being commonplace. And I think if he would have known that, he wouldn't have done that. But no, when you're out there in the middle of a game, you just can't do that.